So it looks like the Polish Holocaust fiasco is not going away. Prime Minister of Poland is doubling down on the foolishness that was started with this passage of the Holocaust denial law. Basically what it is that in Poland. And so the Times of Israel article today, Netanyahu calls Polish Prime Minister's claims of Jewish Holocaust perpetrators outrageous. Yes. Remember all the fuss and outrage when I pointed out that Polish government-controlled journalists were saying the Jews, it was the Jewish Holocaust because the Jews murdered the Jews. And so apparently the Prime Minister of Poland has doubled down on the foolishness going on, and it appears something is in the works here, and I will try to find it again in this article, but you'll see what I mean in just a second, just a minute. Matus Morawski, whatever his name is, remarks show an inability to understand history and a lack of sensitivity to the tragedy of our people, Prime Minister Netanyahu said. He condemned it as outrageous. His Polish counterparts remarks Saturday that Jewish perpetrators were also responsible for the Holocaust. The Polish Prime Minister's remarks here in Munich are outrageous, said Netanyahu, who is also in Germany for a security conference. There is a problem here there's a problem here of an inability to understand history and lack of sensitivity to the tragedy of our people. I intend to speak with him forthwith, Netanyahu said in a statement from Munich. Addressing the Munich Security Conference earlier, Poland's prime minister was rejecting criticism of a new law that criminalizes mention of a Polish state complicit in the Holocaust. When he was asked by an Israeli journalist if sharing his family history of persecution in Poland would be outlawed under the new legislation. Of course it's not going to be punishable. It's not going to be seen as criminal to say that there were Polish perpetrators as there were Jewish perpetrators, as there were Russian perpetrators, as there were Ukrainian, not only German perpetrators. Morawecki told Yehodiath Bergman. He was harshly criticized by opposition lawmakers. Poland's prime minister talks like the last of the Holocaust deniers. The blood of millions of Jews cried out from the ground in Poland over the distortion of history and escape from blame, tweeted party leader Avi Gabe. Which brings me to something that is written in the book of Revelation, the fifth seal. If you want to go look at it, go find it. Yes, their blood is crying from the ground, crying out from the ground. It says, for their testimony which they held. Now, when you go and read that particular passage, it's not what people think it's saying. Let's go find it, because this is very important. Let's see here. Man, what's wrong with this thing? Revelation 6, verse 9. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Jehovah and for the testimony which they held. Now, this does not include or exclude the testimony of Yeshua. In other passages, it talks about people who had the testimony of Yeshua. Let me show you something for just a second here, okay? And they cried with a loud voice, saying, "Oh, how long, O Jehovah, holy and true, do you not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth?" Now, the word "the testimony which they held." Let's go look in Strong's Concordance. Let's not make assumptions here. Let's read it like John said. Testimony. What is that word? Martyria. Martyria, 3141 in Strong's Concordance. That's a Greek word. Witness, evidence, testimony, and reputation. Somebody tell me whose reputation was tarnished throughout all the Middle Ages. Who were the bloodletters, and who were the ones whose blood is crying out from the ground? Avi Gabe is correct. Revelation 6 and verse 9 points to this very thing. Now, listen to this very carefully, because most people have not noticed this. So when they ask, "How long, holy and true, do you not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth?" And white robes are given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that they should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So you're asking, oh no, is there going to be another one? We are reading in Revelation 6, correct? This is John's vision, correct? Who are the ones that will have to die likewise, like they? Now, I'm including the apostles in this particular, because it does not say the apostles were or weren't, but they most certainly were murdered for their testimony and for their reputation. And the Jews were also murdered for their reputation because they were Jews. Now, so who are the ones that are going to also be killed as they were? Their fellow servants and their brethren. Revelation 11. You see, these two witnesses are going to be appointed for a specific purpose, to exact vengeance upon Romanish Europe for what was done to Jerusalem for 3.5 years. It will be done to Romanish Europe likewise for exactly 1,260 days. That's 3.5 years. Vengeance. The blood cries from the ground. It began with Rome destroying Jerusalem and the temple from 67 AD to 70 AD. And these two witnesses are going to wreak havoc on Europe and all Israel's enemies for 3.5 years. And when their ministry is finished, read it yourself, folks. Verse 7, and when they have finished their testimony, same word, the beast which ascended out of the abyss, that's Europe, led by the man at the Vatican, shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. That's right. They have to wait until the two witnesses who wreak havoc and vengeance, yes, they will be appointed to do this. They will be Jews who will be appointed to do this, because it was done to the Jews, so shall it be Jews who wreak havoc back upon the enemies of Israel. You see. And I don't think it could become more crystal clear. And they will do this on not only on behalf of the Jews, but also who suffered for Yeshua's sake. For both the Jews and those who suffered for Yeshua's sake. Not Jesus, not Jesus. The followers of Jesus were the ones who were perpetrating these crimes of genocide. The crimes that Peter talked about the false prophets coming in and making merchandise out of these people. And ensnaring them in the doctrine of murder. I believe it was 2 Peter 2. Yes. Verse 1, but there were false prophets before among the people, and so shall there be false prophets among you in the future, who will privately bring in damnable heresies. I pointed out one of them was changing the name of the Messiah. They would not serve a Hebrew Messiah, a Jewish Messiah. So they changed his name from Yehoshua to Jesus, to honor Zeus, Satan. Even denying the master who bought them. Yes, you do that by denying his name, exactly as Yehoshua pointed out in Revelation 2 concerning, when speaking of the church in Pergamos, and also in Revelation 3 speaking to the church in Philadelphia, because he's going to open the door to the church in Philadelphia because they did not deny his name. And these false prophets, by doing this, by denying, name denial, are going to bring upon themselves swift destruction. And many shall follow their murderous ways. Pernicious. Look up the word. Annihilation is the word. We use genocide. We use that word genocide today. Pernicious. That describes Adolf Hitler. It describes all the men who sat on Caesar's imperial throne at the Vatican. They ordered the extermination of the Jews multiple times. Pernicious. Understand that word. And because of their pernicious ways, and many who followed after their pernicious ways, according to verse 2, by reason of whom the way, the truth, shall be spoken evil, or shall be slandered. The word is blasphemio. So, by reason of the way of truth shall be slandered. How do they slander the truth? Paul told the truth in Romans 11 and verse 26, and so all Israel shall be saved. And what did the Gentile Romans do? They slandered the Jews. They slandered the truth. They slandered the words of Paul. And the word in Greek is blasphemio. And through covetousness, yes, they take your money, they shall with feigned, formed, molded words make merchandise of you. Take your money. Talked about that in my last video. And their judgment now of a long time, when it comes, it will not linger. And their damnation slumbers not. Now, I will continue with this. This is what I was getting at with the blood crying up out of the ground for vengeance. Vengeance will be taken. Vengeance will be taken. Because they utterly destroyed Jerusalem and the temple. They and their cities shall be utterly destroyed. It's just that simple. Because they committed genocide. The blood of the Jews cries up out of the ground, as well as the blood of the apostles whom the Romans killed. That's right. The Romans killed them. Their blood cries out alongside the rest of the Jews for vengeance, and vengeance shall be taken. So, even Yair Lapid, which I don't really care for, but he said something very important. The Polish Prime Minister's statements is anti-Semitism of the oldest kind. The perpetrators are not the victims. The Jewish state will not allow the murdered to be blamed for their own murder. I again call upon the Prime Minister to immediately recall our ambassador to Israel. I agree. I completely agree. So even Zionist Union MK, I can't pronounce her name, says that this man shows his true face. It should be remembered that according to most conservative estimate, 200,000 Jews in Poland were murdered by Poles. No, Poland cannot escape the scourge of the Holocaust, what they've done. She tweeted, adding that the crisis with Poland is only getting worse and there is no room for compromises. If we don't stand up for the truth, no one will do it for us. Well, I will put in my 2 cents worth in. I will not be silent about this. Oh no. Fellow Zionist Union MK, Yitzhak Shmuley, also criticized the Polish Prime Minister, saying the next phase in this pathetic project will be blaming the Jews for their own Holocaust. And he says this: probably the next step of Morawiecki's pathetic project to erasing the crimes of the Polish is going to be blaming Jews for their own Holocaust and presenting the Nazis as victims of the circumstances. He would have to sue the 6 million victims, Jews, my state, before it will happen. And I'm saying that he's right. They are very likely going to sue Israel for slandering Poland and Germany and demand all the money back. You just watch. That's what's going to happen next, folks. This whole article is just I'm not going to read the whole thing because I have another article to read. But one paragraph says the dispute has elicited bitter recriminations on both sides. Some Israelis have accused the mostly Catholic Poles of being driven by anti-Semitism and of trying to deny the Holocaust. Poles believe that they were being defamed by being linked to German crimes, of which they were one of the largest group of victims. Well, that doesn't give you the right to go and murder at least 200,000 Jews, you Poles. Israel, along with several international Holocaust organizations and many critics in Poland, argue that the law could have a chilling effect on debating history, harming freedom of expression, and leading to a whitewashing of Poland's wartime history. Netanyahu has pilloried the law as distortion of the truth, the rewriting of history, and the denial of the Holocaust. Amid the dispute, some Polish commentators, including in government-controlled media, have made strong anti-Jewish remarks. I have mentioned that. In one instance, the head of a state-run channel suggested referring to Auschwitz as a Jewish death camp, in response to an outcry over use of the term Polish death camp to describe the Nazi killing site in German-occupied Poland. Now, I mentioned that Adolf Hitler was a Catholic who also had an affinity for the Muslims. But the Catholics seem to always have an affinity with the Muslims. Oh, you don't agree? Why then did the Catholics do this? The First Crusade. They gathered up all their men together to fight against the Ottoman Turks who were attacking their brethren, the Byzantines. And instead of going there, they're like, why should we go over there and help them when we can kill? We have so many of, as they say, God's enemies that we can kill here. And so they went to go and murder the Jews instead. And they left their brethren, the Byzantines, hung out to dry. And then, what was it? The Fourth Crusade? Was it the Fourth Crusade, was it? I think. When they finally showed up and they found out, yes, the 10 Toes, when they found out that the Byzantines, Constantinople, had no money to pay them, did they go and fight the Ottoman Turks? No. They burned Constantinople to the ground, partially fulfilling the destruction of Babylon, so to speak. This is how the Catholics and their Protestant brethren, how they operate. This is the reason why Europe is now being overrun with Muslims. Because they would rather kill the Jew than fight against the Muslims. So, Viktor Orban, the Hungarian leader, now he's calling Christianity Europe's last hope. Christian Hungary. Catholic Hungary. Yeah, you know where more concentration camps were located. Okay. In Hungary, there were 1, 2, 3, looks like transit camps. And a killing site near Budapest. I'm trying to read this map. There was more than that. Let's see if I can find some more. Okay, there was a ghetto in Budapest. Kistarsa concentration camp, Sered concentration camp, and it said more than 500,000 people were killed or fell victim to the labor service, the deportation organized by German Nazis and their Hungarian henchmen. The brutality of the Hungarian authorities and the death marches and the gassing in Auschwitz, the mass executions and the terrible circumstances of the concentration camps. Hungarian Jews were murdered on the Ukrainian snowfields, on the streets of Budapest, in the countryside ghettos, behind the barbed wire of German concentration camps and the gas changers of Birkenau, on the country roads, every 10th victim of the Holocaust and every 3rd victim of Auschwitz, the largest extermination camp, were Hungarian. And so they're going to say that Christianity is Europe's last hope. What does he mean by that? Well, let's find out. So I went to Wikipedia and looked up religion in Hungary. All right. The Catholic Church, well, I'll start at the undeclared first. Undeclared, 27%. Atheist, 1.5%. Non-religious, 16%. Other religions, 1.9%. Lutheranism, 2.2%. Calvinism, 11.6%. Greek Catholicism, 1.8%, and the Catholic Church is the majority, 37.1%. And they say, so what he's saying, that the Catholic Church is Hungary's last hope. Is that where Europe is heading to now? The very people who slaughtered the Jews throughout the Middle Ages and during the Holocaust. Europe, if you think you've got it rough now, wait until the two witnesses show up and exact revenge upon you and your lands for what you've done to all these Jews and the holy apostles, what you did to them, and for slandering the truth. You turn the truth upside down, including denying the name of the very one who bought and paid for redemption. It's coming. And you won't be able to stop it until 3.5 years of havoc is wreaked upon Europe. Prepare yourselves. Europe. In fact, the whole world, prepare yourselves. Because if Europe goes, the whole world goes, folks. It's just that simple. The only light that's going to be left is going to be in Israel on Mount Zion.